Listen to the 48 Hours podcast for shocking murder cases and compelling real-life dramas from one of television's most watched true crime shows. Go behind the scenes of each episode with award-winning CBS News correspondents and producers in Postmortem, a weekly deep dive. Listen to 48 Hours wherever you get your podcasts.
Girl, real talk. This whole "it's a new year, time to reinvent myself" trash is not the vibe for 2024. You can find someone who loves you for you, as you are. You don't need to read a stack of self-help books, only eat sad salads, or start meditating at 5 a.m. to be ready for dating. So yeah, my advice is to download Bumble and find someone who embraces you the way you are right now. Let me know how it goes.
A note to listeners, the following podcast contains content that may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
Walking in the house and just needing to hug her because that was the last friend that Molly had seen, to my knowledge.
Told Conn that she called 911, that she had called 911. Conn freaked out, shot Molly in the head. Colt freaked out and then tried to fight Conn, and Conn shot him.
We know from eyewitness statements that Conn and Colt were dealing drugs that day because we have Tim Branch's statement talking about Conn, Colt, and Molly pulling up, bringing them drugs. I want this over. I want everybody in this family, we'll never, closure. Like Tracy said, there's no such thing as closure. But at least we can close this chapter and start to mourn. We can't mourn because we have nothing to mourn.
You are listening to Partners in True Crime. We are your hosts, Rob and Cindy Dorfman. Today is the 9-year anniversary of Molly and Colt's disappearance.
We just want to thank everyone for listening. It means so much to us and to Molly's family. This is a really emotional time for the family, and everyone's support is appreciated.
During the first year of the investigation, Paula received dozens of tips, and today we're going to release a recording from someone who was with Molly in the days leading up to her disappearance.
Paula's going to help us navigate the tip and give us her thoughts. So let's play the recording.
Yeah, and just kind of set us up right now for, this was early part of you going out and canvassing Love County, looking for people who Molly was with at that time. So kind of give us a little bit of a ramp up of what that was like for you in the beginning stages of her being missing and not knowing anything. So can you give us a little bit about what was going through your mind and what you were doing with Misty and when you went to go talk to Jessica?
When Molly's mom actually called me and basically asked me for my help, told me that I needed to come down there. That was almost 2 weeks once she went missing. Because I never lived there and knew none of these people, I was learning all this information about where she had been and what she had been doing in the days prior to her going missing. And Jessica was one of Molly's best friends. She is one that I definitely wanted to talk to and hear her take on what was happening prior to Molly's disappearance up until what she knew afterward. I recall that she had left the Carter County area shortly after Molly's disappearance, and she had moved up to live with her biological father. And that's where I went to see her. And that particular day, the U.S. Marshals were also going to see her. And I wanted to talk to her first because I knew once she gave her statement officially that at that point it was probably going to be very hard for me to talk to her. It was very emotional for me to see her in person. It was the first time I'd ever seen her, and my sister and I went there. And I recall Jessica walking in the house and just needing to hug her because that was the last friend that Molly had seen, to my knowledge, and I just needed to hold her, and it was very emotional for me. But I just there was a lot of questions that I had prior to going to see her, and the U.S. Marshals were coming that very day. As a matter of fact, the U.S. Marshals, after I got home from visiting with her, the U.S. Marshals showed up at my house prior to going to see her. 2 of them did. And they wanted my recording of Jessica. They took my phone and they transferred that recording over to them. From my understanding, I told Jessica toward the end of our visit that I told her I felt like she was leaving some valuable information out, and it was in her best interest to tell the U.S. Marshals everything. I never knew for certain what she did tell them, but I was told that she did give more information than what she had given me.
Okay, great. So that's a good lead in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play we'll play little excerpts of this interview, and we'll stop and then we'll talk about it. Okay. So you can kind of tell me, you'll be able to hear it. Okay. So I'm going to start playing this right now. I think it runs like about a minute or so, and then we'll stop and we'll talk about it.
Okay. The day before Conn picked her up, did you leave on that Saturday or what?
I left 2 times. Okay. So that Saturday, what date was the day they ran out around the cops?
7th, on a Sunday.
Okay, so about the 3rd, I left and came, and then she was like, bring back some tampons. I brought back what she needed. And so I brought back what she needed, and then I stayed till the 8th. The 7th, I was there. No, I left the 7th too. I went home. But the 7th, whenever Conn came, Conn's not allowed in Josh's house, so Conn never came in. I never physically seen the car, but they left, so I know. And Colt came in and said, Conn, we're going with Conn. I was like, Molly, don't. Because, it's cool if we all get up and go down there to Conn's, but not just Molly. And I was like, and I begged her to stay. I swear to God, I begged her to stay. Mm-hmm. But she... Again, Colt was on the needle, and I don't know if she had done a shot and just been acting out of control, because usually she wouldn't leave me. And I didn't even know this Josh guy, so I had no way home. So she left with Colt, and Conn picked them up. And then I had Josh take me home back to Wilson. The day after that, after they outran the cops, Josh took me out to dinner. The 2 Frogs in Ardmore. In our date, Colt Haynes called out after they outran the cops. So that's how I know they're still alive from there, or if they are.
We know
I got something to.
Yeah.
I got something else to tell you in a minute too. We got a call from Colt, and Colt said, "This bitch is going home whenever I get back." And he had broke his ankle.
Where were they?
Middle of the woods. They didn't know where the hell they was. The next day.
Okay, hold up. So what time was this that Colt called Josh and y'all were at 2 Frogs?
2.
About 2 in the afternoon?
Not my phone, though. Molly would not answer her phone. Molly's phone would...
Do you know there was not a phone call made... Molly did not make one phone call after 9:39 in the morning on the 8th. Not one phone call was made from her phone.
The 7th is when they ran the cops.
No, the 8th. The 8th was a Monday.
They ran the cops on 7th.
Yes.
So what I'm saying, on the 8th, he called and said, this bitch is going home when I get back. That's why I was like...
That day, she never used her phone after 9:39 that morning. At all.
So he called... Now, I want to know, did he call Josh's phone?
Mm-hmm.
And did you hear the conversation? Did Josh relay this conversation to you?
No, it was Josh... Because Molly was with them, and Molly wouldn't answer phone, so it was me.
So he was on speakerphone?
Colt Haynes, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It was just me and him in the restaurant, because Josh's friend owns 2 Frogs. It was me, Josh, and then in the table, but we was eating, I could hear him. He said, what are you doing, buddy? He was like, I'm lost in the woods, I don't know where we are. He was like, I don't even give a shit anymore. And he said, but when I get home, this bitch is going home. And I didn't hear Molly's voice, but I guess she said something, because Colt was like, yeah, the fuck you are.
So they never said that they got picked up out of the woods, that anybody came and got them? Nothing?
Oh, no, yeah. The people who came and got them, I wrote it in the police report. What's it called?
Police report?
Report.
Was it who did you give this police report to? Was it Wilson PD?
Felix. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to stop it right there. Because then she goes into you talking about the marshals are going to talk to her and stuff like that. So give us a little backstory on what was going on there and what you think of what she said.
Well, she's talking a mile a minute.
Yeah, let's start with one piece at a time. So the 2:00 phone call that she claims Colt Haynes called her at Senior Frogs the next day when she was with Josh Davis at lunch. What did you think of that?
I don't believe it. And the reason why is I have a copy of Colt Haynes' phone records, and that phone call never happened, according to his phone records, unless it happened at a different time and she's messed up on the date, because that's not, can verify it by his phone records that did not happen.
So do you think it happened earlier?
It's possible that it could have happened earlier. I don't know that to be quite honest, the way that whole thing was described right there was very, it didn't make sense to me. She says that Colt said, so what, did Colt just call and say, hey, we're lost in the woods, and when we get back, this bitch is going home? If it was 2:00 in the afternoon, we're talking 14 hours approximately 15 hours after that police chase ended. So we can assume that they've been out there in the woods all night long and up until 2:00 in the afternoon, and they're burning up. Now, if this story happened, and it happened, I don't recall at this moment how far out on Colt's phone records we have after the police chase. I can't recall at this moment, but so let's assume that happened, that they were alive longer, and even Colt was alive longer than what we suspect. Then it might have happened at a later date, but Colt, they were no longer in the woods. They would have been somewhere else, and she's not telling us where they said they were. And I don't believe for a minute that Colt would lie to Josh about what's going on with them. So I don't think he's saying we're in the woods, unless this happened in the middle of the night. Up until 9, Colt's phone went dead at 9:56 a.m. the morning of the 8th. So unless he called from somebody else's phone, we have Molly's phone records. It didn't happen on Molly's phone. It didn't happen on Colt's phone. Unless he's using somebody else's phone, that call didn't happen. Not at the time that she's claiming it did.
Well, could he have, I mean, he was dealing at the time. Could he have had a burner phone?
Well, yeah, I'm sure that's possible.
Because I don't think he would be dealing drugs on his own phone. You know, I know he's young, but still.
I think probably anything that Colt had was a burner phone. Even Molly basically had a burner phone at that moment because she was grounded from her iPhone. So I think anything that, I believe Colt probably had one phone and one phone only, and that's, what he used for everything. I don't think he had multiples, but I guess it's possible, but I don't really think that.
Wasn't Josh Davis like his best friend, or they were close? At least that's what I've heard from a few people.
Well, that's what I've heard as well. And, Colt was living with Josh.
So wouldn't he have, if he called him the next day, wouldn't he have told him where he was? He wouldn't have said, I'm still in the woods. He would have said, come get me.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That the way she described that conversation doesn't come across as Colt is in any distress at that moment. And he would have said, man, we can't get anybody out here to come and get us. Would you come and get us? So I think that the story doesn't, her interpretation of what happened and the time frame doesn't make sense for Colt. And to be quite honest, I do not believe Colt was alive at 2:00 in the afternoon.
That next day.
On July the 8th.
Yeah, that next day.
Yeah.
So that just doesn't add up for me. From what I feel like I know to be fact in this case, that statement does not add up.
Do you think she could have misinterpreted who was on the other side of the phone? She sounds pretty clear that it was Colt that was calling.
Yeah, I think if the story is correct, and Josh has made a statement to the police, to the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, actually. And I do know that the Oklahoma Highway Patrol feels like that Josh is not being on the up and up with them.
Well, we're gonna listen to something she talks about later a little bit where she says that her story and Josh's story doesn't match up.
And that's part of it. But I also think, well, I know that the Oklahoma Highway Patrol also believes that Josh is not telling the full story. And, from some other things I've learned within the last couple of years, Josh said when Colt Haynes left his house, he left with $1,800 worth of drugs. He had told Josh when Josh came home from work that morning that he had talked to Conn, and Conn had told him, you bring your drugs to my people and we can double your money. And when Colt left there, he left with those drugs. We know from eyewitness statements that Conn and Colt were dealing drugs that day, because we have Tim Branch's statement talking about Conn, Colt, and Molly pulling up, bringing them drugs. They come back a little bit later to collect the money for the drugs, or however that statement went. But they describe it. He's putting himself out there. They were buying drugs off Colt that day. I don't know if these people, this Tim Branch or whatever, I don't know if he is what the quotes Conn's people or if that's Colt's people. You know what I mean? Because according to Josh, that's what Colt said. Conn says we bring the drugs to his people, we can double our money. Josh's story that he has told to law enforcement hasn't just made them, feel like that he's being honest.
Cool. Let me just play this other part, which kind of relates to that a little bit, and then tell me what you think. Okay?
Okay.
Well, so when they called and y'all were at Two Frogs, or when he called, Colt, when he called and y'all were at Two Frogs, he said they were still in the woods.
Yeah.
And nobody had ever came and picked them up.
No. And they couldn't get hold of Conn. And then Devin, what's that?
Johnson.
He picked him up. He came to John Davenport's house where I stay, because John brought in Katie Turner and everyone always comes over there. And they went to the house we're staying at. I was sitting right here. Devin Johnson's girlfriend was sitting right there, and she knew way more than what they.
What's her name?
I don't know.
Turner.
Katie.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was there. That's why Devin brought her over there.
She was with him when he picked them up, right? She was with him.
She was with him the next day. So that's all. I don't. Devin told me and my mom, because my mom asked her. My mom went to Long Grove trailer parks, banging on doors, thinking that Molly was in there. Whenever he came out to John's to do whatever he needed to do, my mom was like, "Did you pick Colt and Molly up?" And he goes, "I'm not gonna lie to you. Yeah, I picked him up off
Oswald Road. Yeah. What time? What day?
He just said he picked him up after they were lost in the woods, so it had to have been the 8th.
What day was this that Devin Johnson came to this John's house? Do you know?
It was like 3 weeks after it happened.
Did he say where he took them?
To his house in Ardmore. And then they left. He said that he took him back, and he said that Colt's ankle was broke.
Okay. What do you think about that? Does the timing line up?
No. And I know that law enforcement went to Devin's house in Ardmore, and Molly and Colt were nowhere to be found. I don't know if you guys didn't play this part or if I missed something, but I said to her, how long was it when Devin showed up at this John's house? Is she talking about John Davenport?
Yes, that's what she says.
Okay. And did you play that part and I missed it?
Well, you asked what time, and she didn't really give you a time.
Did she talk about that just then in that recording?
Hold on, let me just play this other part. Let's see, hold on.
Okay. She's talking so fast.
I know.
Let me play this part. You ask her a question.
So the last that you know is that, according to Devin Johnson, he picked them up.
Yeah. And took him back to his house.
In Ardmore.
And then they left. And that's why I thought... See, that's just why I thought Jason Dillard had a big part of it all, because Jason Dillard had... Conn has nobody. Conn has Rob and Colby and everyone who's going to help him out. But his biggest, way to get out of shit was always Jason Dillard. And then this was after I wrote the police report where I would have wrote this in it. The next day, you know Alan Fox?
Who?
Alan Fox and Mindy Hodges.
Mm-mm.
I think you talked to me about them. That's why I heard the name.
Yeah, because I was
Jason
telling you.
went to his house.
Coincidentally, seeing that Jason's the only person that Conn has. Jason runs to Alan's, because Jason and Alan, all of them grew up together, so they all have like each other's backs. Jason shows up into Alan Mindy's house and says, "I need your help, brother, and we need to get out of state or whatever," because Jason ain't even allowed in Oklahoma anyway, but he had done something.
Jason had?
Yeah. And
he's still on the run?
No, he's in Clark County.
Oh.
And then Alan left, didn't come back for days, and his old lady Mindy was like, Jason just showed up and made him get in the car to come help him. And that was
help him do what?
I don't know. And that was like the 8th. That was like the 9th or 8th or 9th.
I wrote down on my notepad.
What have you heard that has happened to Molly?
Okay, my Uncle Bobby, you know Uncle Bobby, he's in drug court and stuff. Reggie said that they pulled Jason Dillard out of the cell and made him tell him everything that he knew. And he said that whenever Jason Dillard said Conn, after that ran the cops, Molly got separated and then tried calling 911 and then found Conn, hung up with 911, told Conn that she called 911, that she had called 911. Conn freaked out, shot Molly in the head. Colt freaked out and then tried to fight Conn, and Conn shot him. That's what, and then I've heard, and then you got this. My boyfriend, I was seeing this guy named Brody Weaver, and in Ardmore, and he's from Dallas, and he has his friend Zach from Dallas, and his friend Zach does a lot of drugs, sells a lot of drugs, it's like whatever he can get money, whatever.
Trafficking.
A lot, yeah. And he has a lot of guns. And Conn, we all wanted to know what the hell, because we were all setting Conn up. We wasn't setting him up, but we just wanted to know what he was going to say to us about the situation. If he would have known I was there, he wouldn't have said nothing, because me, Conn, and Molly used to be best friends. We hung out all the time. But, so I sat in the back, and he didn't know I was dating the guy that was sitting in there. And the guy that was, my boyfriend, Conn came in, and Conn is supposedly selling the gun that shot Colt in the head. And Zach wanted it. And I was in the back, and Conn came in, and my boyfriend said, "So whatever happened?" He wasn't meaning to call Molly a bitch.
I know. That's fine.
He said, "So whatever happened to that Molly bitch, Conn?" And Conn's like, "Well, I never did anything to hurt her. I did everything to protect her. I came into Zach's house and stopped Levi from raping her when she was so fucked up. And then they come down to my land, and Colt gives her a shot, and she overdoses. Overran, dies. And then Conn, he said, "I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I shot Colt right in between the eyes." And my boyfriend says, "Are they ever going to find him?" He said, "No, they're, he was like more or less saying he burned them. He said they're part of the earth now." And everyone was like just got in serious mode because he was dead serious. If you would have seen his eyes, like even my boyfriend was like, "Dude, he's telling the truth." But why wouldn't he just come up and say if that's what happened? Colt gave her a shot, you know?
Girl, real talk. This whole "it's a new year, time to reinvent myself" trash is not the vibe for 2024. You can find someone who loves you for you, as you are. You don't need to read a stack of self-help books, only eat sad salads, or start meditating at 5 a.m. to be ready for dating. So yeah, my advice is to download Bumble and find someone who embraces you the way you are right now. Let me know how it goes.
Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, streaming January 25th, only on Netflix.
A little bit more context there?
Yeah.
Pretty revealing. What are your thoughts when I know you were very emotional during that interview. I could tell your voice was breaking up sometimes. So hearing it now, after the fact, after all this time, what do you think? All the stuff that you know.
I haven't heard this recording in quite some time. And after this 9 years, and that recording was very early on, and all the different things I've learned since. I think she's just speculating, or she's repeating rumors that she's heard, but the weird thing about that to me is she was so entrenched in that world that it's hard for me to understand that she doesn't know exactly what happened to her friend. She could have asked. I think she could have walked up to Conn and asked what happened to Molly.
Well, I don't think he
What
knew
did
that
he
she
do?
was there. I don't think he knew she was there, according to the way I mean, it's hard to tell, but it sounds like she might have been in another room. That's what it appears to be, because she says that he didn't know I was there.
No, not in that circumstance right there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying at any point she could have called Conn, because according to her, they were all friends. Colt, Molly, and Conn were friends. Friend to friend. Don't you think you could call your friend and say, man, what happened last night? What went on?
Maybe she did.
Well, there lies the problem. If she did, and there's been what people call a misinformation campaign throughout these 9 years, to throw you off, to lead you in somebody else's direction. For instance, Jason Dillard. Somebody's always trying to lead you in a different direction. And so my question is, is Jessica doing this to me at that moment? Or there's always a little bit of truth in every story we hear, I believe. And so therefore, what part of her story is accurate? But we've also got to understand that this girl was at that time very, very young. I mean, she was younger than Molly.
Yeah.
So she's a child. And so you can hear that in her demeanor and the way she's talking about things. Being naive and being in that world, I just feel like there's a way she could have confronted Conn and asked him and got the answers. And as far as her mother goes, she mentions her mother. Well, her mother was a friend of Kobe Barrett. And her mother spent a lot of time on Long Hollow Road. I do know that her mother, around this time, the camping trailer that I mentioned in the last episode that was at the end of Long Hollow Road, from my understanding, her mother spent some time in that camping trailer cleaning it after Molly went missing. Her and another gentleman got stopped coming off a Long Hollow Road. This is how I know this. They got stopped coming off a Long Hollow Road. I was shown their pictures because the deputy that stopped them took the pictures of their license. He asked me if I knew these two people. I did not know the guy, but I did know who that woman was by her name. I did not know her personally, but I knew who she was. He said that they had told him when he stopped them that they had said that they were down there cleaning the camping trailer at the end of Long Hollow Road. So her mother was in the world as well. She was friends with Kobe Barrett. Jessica was friends with Conn. It's just a very, it's a very sinister world. I can't wrap my mind around all of it.
Well, she also says in this recording that Molly and Conn had a sexual relationship together.
Yes.
Did you're aware of that, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I recall exactly the words she used to describe it. So, yeah, it made me sick. If that's true, it made me absolutely sick.
But what do you think about her story? Her story about where Colt could have been the one that gave her a hot shot of drugs because he was mad because she dialed 911. And that Conn freaked out. I mean, and then took him out because of what he did to Molly.
Well, again, it's definitely a possibility. It's not what I believe happened, but it's definitely because even though I have my theory, it's just a theory. I don't know anything for certain. I believe I know with 100% certainty what happened, but I can't prove that yet.
Because also, she also says that Molly was head over heels for Colt, and Colt was just like not having it.
Right.
So
she also stated, I don't know if she stated it in that clip or at what point she actually stated it, if it was on a phone call between her and I, but she did tell me that her and Molly had never shot up prior to going and staying at Josh Davis's house. And she said, Jessica says that she personally did not, but Colt shot Molly up for the first time. And she told me that they stayed in the bedroom that entire week, basically, and he kept her shot up. That's what she told me. She wasn't in that bedroom. I don't know how she would know that for certain, but, I just really hope that. I have a really hard time with that one, if that's true. I have a very difficult time knowing that, Yeah, I don't want to go any further with that, but
Yeah.
I just haven't. But as far as her story or her theory, or I don't think there's ever any clarification as to why she thinks this. If it's just a rumor, and who's the rumor from? And
Well, at one time where she's talking about it, she's actually saying that she's there, but they don't know she's there, so she's hearing all of it. So she is kind of a first-hand witness of this.
Okay, so she's saying that this was when Conn came over to this Levi's house.
Correct.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not like she's hearing a third person. She's talking about, at least that's what she's saying in this recording, that she was there and that Conn didn't know she was there.
That's right. Yeah. And see, the deal is, again, Conn has been one of the ones who has done the misinformation campaign. I mean, now he's saying in this, what Jessica's saying is Conn is saying that Colt shot her up and killed her, overdosed her. And then he came along mad because she's dead, so he killed Colt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But he's also, which story is it, Conn? Is it that? Or did Jason Dillard pick her up and take her to Wichita Falls? Or Ann Nip wants to put out on Facebook, those kids left Pike Road alive, and the 4 people that were out looking for them picked them up. So that family...
But we know that's not true.
Well, that's absolutely right. We know that's not true. But that's what Ann Nip has put out on Facebook. And then Conn is constantly throwing Jason Dillard under the bus. And now he's throwing Colt under the bus. Why? Because Colt can't defend himself and say that didn't happen. But the weird thing about that is, I don't know if he's trying to act tough by saying, I took him out because he hurt Molly. You know what I mean? Or what's his reasoning behind implicating himself in the actual murder of these 2?
Well, and when did that happen? Because he ditched them, went home while they were out there, calling all these people all night long, people looking for them. So when would that have happened?
Well, it would have happened another tip. Well, it wasn't a tip. Molly's brother heard the same thing. And he called me with that information. And he was saying that when Conn went back out there the next morning, Molly was dead in the car. And that Colt had shot her up with heroin in the neck, is exactly what he said. And Conn became irate and killed Colt. That all sounds very logical.
Yeah, and then called his people to come help clean it all up.
It's all very logical.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that look how many people are taking the heat for Conn Nip, and nobody would do that for Conn Nip.
Why do you think so?
Joe Russell went down for him. Colby Barrick's gone to prison twice since Molly went missing.
Right. If this was a noble act that he had done, supposedly, wouldn't they have just said something? Wouldn't they have just said it? It would have come out by now.
Well, and I don't think I think Colby's going to say, man, y'all leave me alone. I had nothing to do with this. It's him. He did it. This is what happened. Leave us alone. But he's not doing that.
They're doing so many things illegally.
But maybe they helped him too.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Well,
you had Joe Russell running a criminal enterprise, and we're going to get into more of that because we found out some new information about that, about how deep the enterprise was and how he was helping to engineer it. But you had him running a criminal enterprise through these guys, so it would have exposed a lot of things. So regardless of what happened, if anybody got killed there, they were going to cover it up.
Well, though, I don't know. I mean, by bringing this heat on, it's going to be exposed. But then again, I've said in the past, I don't think anybody thought it would go this far. So maybe they thought, because other things have happened in that county from what I'm told, and it's all just swept under the rug. It just goes away. It's a myth or an urban legend or whatever happened, but, it just always goes away. And then this is in their face all the time.
But time is on their side. The longer it goes, the more diluted the story gets, the more convoluted the story gets. The witnesses have gone on, and the people who know anything about this have gone on to different lives. Some have made their lives better, finding God and having families, and have ignored this and have kind of just put it as a dark page in their history. But at the same point, the same names keep on coming up. That's what we keep on talking. Cindy and I keep on talking about the same names. The scenarios could have changed. Bottom line is Conn was the last person to see both of those people. So it all comes down to that.
And also, why wouldn't you just set the record straight at some point?
I agree.
If he didn't have anything to do with it.
Well, if they left Pike Road alive, as Ann Nipp says on Facebook, if they left Pike Road alive, why don't they set the record straight?
That's what I'm saying.
You know, and then if Jason Dillard picked them up and took them to Wichita Falls, prove it. Prove all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Get the heat off of you. You're so freaking innocent. Get the heat off of you. There's ways to do it.
Exactly. Let them on the property. Let them check the whole thing. You know, the one thing that we can go back to is the facts. One of the things that we do know is that burn pit was checked. It didn't have traces of human remains. Now we know from Jessica's story of her overhearing Conn saying they burned the body. They're never going to find the body. So those two facts line up. Mm-hmm. That's not circumstantial anymore. That's a connection. We know that. That's more than likely what happened. So it's just, but it comes back to Conn. He knows, regardless whether or not he did something valiant by defending Molly or it was someone else, he knows what's going on. To me, that's the nexus of this whole problem. Joe Russell's not going to say anything. Colby's not going to say anything. We got 2 felons there. We got 3 felons. You have 3 felons that haven't been questioned properly about this.
Right.
And I don't know who else is protecting them.
But that rumor about Wichita Falls that was in that statement that Conn Nipp made to Joe Russell, that rumor was spinning from the beginning. And I think that the misinformation was just a way to confuse everybody. Because I remember speaking to Maureen Kane at KXII, who we interviewed before on the TV show. And she had said that first thing Joe Russell said to her was, oh, it's a bunch of runaways. Forget about it. It's not a story. They're in Wichita Falls. So Jessica said it in her text messages to Taylor. Do you remember those text messages? Taylor Shepard and Jessica's text messages. She kept saying that Molly was in Wichita Falls.
She says it in this too. She initially thought that's what happened.
She kept saying over and over, she's not dead. She's in Wichita Falls. She's in Wichita Falls. We'll find her.
Well, she said in this recording, which I haven't played, she says that her and Molly were talking about running away. I don't know if that, that's what she says in this recording. Uh-huh. She talks about, and when she found out that they took off without her, she thought that they went without her. So she thought.
I don't believe that.
Well, that's,
Oh, no. 9 years, guys.
I know.
A long time.
I know.
It is a long time.
Yesterday, I got a friend request from a girl. Her first name was Molly. Mm. And we had no mutual friends. I don't know this person. And so I pulled up her Facebook page to look it over. And the way she was laying in, there's not many pictures of her on her Facebook page, but one in particular, she was laying on her face, like on her side, with her cheek down. And I looked and I looked and I looked at that picture, thinking, "Is that you, Molly? Is that you?" And you're trying to. Then I start going through her Facebook page and reading all of her posts. And one of the posts said that, God dang it, the post scared me because she talks about living off the grid in this post. This person does. She talks about living off the grid, and it's so hot. She's saying it's so hot. And, they don't have air conditioning and all of this. And it was like, oh my God, this is her. And so I kept going because I was trying to figure out this girl's age because the way she was laying, it was hard to determine. You know what I mean? It was kind of hard to determine. And she had a bandana on, like on her head. And anyway, I finally found a post where she's talking about graduating in the 80s. So then I knew it wasn't Molly, but it was like so odd. And I was like, oh my God, is this her? She's living off the grid and she's changed her last name. And it was so odd. And I've just been so emotional past few days with this anniversary coming up and stuff. And it's just, I'm just tired.
Yeah. We have every right to be tired. I mean, it's a Herculean task that you've been doing for the past 9 years. And you're running up against brick wall after brick wall, and you're not getting any help. And people want this to just go away. I mean, Jackie Bates said it perfectly. He said, people they're not going to help. He just wants you to go away. They don't want you to solve this case.
And
that's sad.
It is sad. And there's always that little shred of hope that maybe she's out there somewhere. You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I think your heart's trying to find some answers here. And I think that came at when did you get that Facebook thing?
Yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah,
it was very strange. And, I'm sure the woman just friend requested me because she's probably following the podcast or something. And her name's Molly. And I have a lot of people I don't know friend request me, and I don't accept most of them, but it really hit hard yesterday. And I don't cry. I just don't cry. I'm not a crier. And I think I'm so tired of trying to feel tough.
You are tough. You're the toughest woman on the planet.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about all that, but it's just too much sometimes. And I just want this over. I just want her home. She deserves it. She deserves peace. And I'm just tired, and I know she is too. And it makes me so sad for her. She deserves better than this. She deserves to be in that cemetery with her grandma and grandpa,
Mm-hmm.
But it's not fair. It's not fair. All these people who have lost loved ones that are involved in this since Molly's disappearance, they have a place to go visit their family member. They got to lay them to rest. Kobe Barrett just lost his son to murder. At least he knows, and that boy's being prosecuted for his son's murder. And it's like, and I feel bad for them all. I feel terrible. What happened to that boy? But God dang, I wish I could just stop. I'm angry.
Yeah, you have every right to be.
Absolutely.
And you know what? A lot of people out there are angry.
We're angry.
The responses we've been getting, a lot of it, and you can see it on our message boards and Facebook group. They're angry. They're angry that you have to go through this, that anybody has to go through this. But
no one should have to go through this. No family should have to deal with this. This is unacceptable.
I agree. I just want the proper authorities to do their job.
Yeah.
It's what I want. It's all there for them for the taking. All they got to do is do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all know exactly what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
It's there. So,
yeah,
we'll do it ourselves.
They want it to be easy and wrapped up for them. That's and I understand that because they don't want to go to trial with just a bunch of circumstantial evidence and scenarios and half-baked witnesses and that kind of thing. I get that, all the people that I've talked to, but there's a lot of meat on this bone here as far as evidence.
But the whole problem with that, I have straight up told them I don't give a crap about justice. Get Molly home. At this point, all I want is Molly home. I don't care. In the eyes of public opinion, these people are guilty. They look guilty. They smell guilty. They are guilty. I want Molly home. The rest doesn't even matter anymore. It truly does not matter. But I believe they just get her home. Everything else will fall into place. It will all come around. And that I believe that. But God is going to take care of it. And I only believe. I've never asked God why. Because I already know the why. And I see it. I didn't understand it in the beginning, but I understand it now. But I didn't doubt him and why he allowed this to happen. He didn't allow it to happen. This was choices made by people in flesh. God didn't allow this to happen. The bigger picture here is going to be revealed. All the corruption, all the bad stuff, I believe, because of Molly's situation, that's all going to be revealed. And Molly and Colt, bless their souls, were not the first, but I pray to God they're the last that this happens to. Because, like you said, nobody deserves this. Damn sure don't deserve to get away with it. But yet, once again, I'm going to say it. I don't care about justice. Just freaking let us have her. Just call an anonymous tip and tell us where to go get her. And we'll go get her.
Yeah. No, I think that's
just how I feel about it.
Well, I think it's exactly how you need to feel about it.
Now that we're having the 9-year anniversary of Molly's disappearance, what is your plea for the public?
My plea is for anybody that has any information, whether it be big, small, you don't know, the little piece that we're missing that may fill in the puzzle that will bring this all to an end. And, you can contact me, you can contact the podcast, you can contact somebody you trust in law enforcement. It's totally up to them. But just help us have some sort of resolution. Do it anonymously. Just call in a tip, say the location. We'll go get her. No questions asked.
Next time on Partners in True Crime.
I feel like it's crazy that they didn't ask him where he was at every single moment of that night, because 2 people to this day still are gone. No one knows where. I don't think KXII will ever forget about Molly and Colt. When I first walked into my office here, the missing poster is still above my desk to this day, so it made it pretty clear to me that we want this solved, and we're gonna keep doing those stories with Paula until that happens.
If you or anyone you know is suffering from a methamphetamine addiction, please contact the American Meth Addiction Hotline.
If you or anyone you know has been the victim of sexual abuse, please contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline.
For any tips relating to the disappearance of Molly Miller and Colt Haynes, please contact 833-4 Molly and Colt, and they will be directed to the proper law enforcement agency.
All rights reserved. This has been a production of 722 Media Content. Please visit our website where you can subscribe to the podcast, find show notes, and listen to Vi's original song, Take Me Back, written for Molly Miller. All right, Paula.
All right, you go.
Big hugs.
Big hugs.